What if an AI could understand not just what you say, but how you feel? I mean, really get it. Well, we're getting pretty close to that reality. Today, we're going to dive into the wild quest to code something deeply human, our emotions, right into artificial intelligence. So let's start with a question that seems simple, but trust me, it gets complicated fast. When you think about emotions, joy, anger, fear, do you just see them as, well, feelings? Just something that kind of happens to you? Because what if they're actually a whole lot more than that? What if emotions aren't just there to make life interesting, but are actually a super powerful evolutionary program for survival? A biological code that we're now, get this, trying to upload into a totally different kind of mind. Okay, so let's dig into that first big idea. Before we can even think about building an emotional AI, we have to completely rethink what an emotion actually is. The thinking behind this is that emotions aren't some kind of philosophical luxury. Nope. They are fast, gut-level decision-making tools. Fear screams, run from that thing. Disgust tells you do not eat that weird-smelling berry. You can think of them as life-saving shortcuts that are hardwired directly into our brains. Right, so if we're going to build an emotional AI, we need a blueprint, right? We need some way to decode our own complicated minds and organize all these feelings into a system that a computer can actually wrap its digital head around. And that blueprint, it's built on this amazing concept called theory of mind. It's basically our superpower to guess what other people are thinking or feeling. It's the secret sauce behind empathy, teamwork, and pretty much all of society. For an AI to truly interact with us, it needs to build its own version of this. So to start building that, we can use a model. This here is a simplified take on Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. It lays out 8 core universal emotions that come in these neat pairs of opposites. Joy versus sadness, fear versus anger, you get the idea. Think of these like the primary colors of our emotional world. But of course, life isn't just red, yellow, and blue, and our feelings are way more complex than just 8 basic emotions. These primary emotions are just the building blocks. They mix and blend together to create this huge, rich, and sometimes confusing spectrum of what we feel. So let's try a quick one. If you take that primary color of joy and you mix it with the primary emotion of trust, what do you think you get? You get love. See? This model shows how a really profound human feeling can actually be broken down into a combination of more fundamental emotional states. Kind of cool, right? And here's another one. That feeling of looking forward to something awesome that's about to happen? Well, that's just anticipation mixed with joy, which gives you optimism. So, okay, now we have a framework. We have our building blocks and the rules for how they mix. All right, so that framework is the psychology. Now we hit the engineering challenge. How on earth do you take something as abstract as joy or trust and translate it into something a machine can actually compute? The answer, maybe not surprisingly, is that you have to quantify them. You have to turn these feelings into the one language that computers speak fluently: data. Or more specifically, numbers. And here's one way it can be done. You take an emotional pair, like joy and sadness, and you put it on a numerical scale. So, using a standard 8-bit range, you could say positive 127 is the most joy you can feel, while negative 128 is the deepest sadness, and 0 is just neutral. Just like that, a feeling becomes a number a computer can work with. Okay, so the AI has these scores. It's feeling a plus 90 on the joy-sadness scale, and maybe a minus 50 on the fear-anger scale. Now what? What does it actually do with that information? How do those numbers turn into an action? Well, it makes a choice through a process that the source material cleverly calls voting. The AI basically weighs a few different things. First, its physical needs, like its battery level. Second, its current emotional state, all those numbers we just talked about. And third, any goals or desires it's been programmed with. Whichever factor has the highest vote, the biggest sense of urgency, gets to decide the next move. Let's make this real with a slightly more dramatic example. Imagine you're really hungry. That's a physical need, and its vote is getting louder and louder. But then, you turn a corner and there's a lion. Instantly, your fear emotion spikes, and it casts a massive, powerful vote for run away. Your need for food is now in a head-to-head battle with your fear. Now, in most situations, fear is going to win that vote, no question. But what if you were literally starving? If that physical need for food becomes absolutely critical, its vote could theoretically become stronger than the vote from fear. This is what explains why a desperate animal might take a crazy risk. The whole system is designed so that the most urgent need for survival wins. And listen, this isn't just some sci-fi theory. We can apply this stuff today. You can feed this kind of emotional data into a large language model and ask it to generate and evaluate different actions. You could literally ask it, given a human stress level of plus 80, what are some actions to improve their well-being? The AI can then vote on the best answer. So we've got the theory and we've got the beginnings of the engineering. But what does a future with empathetic AI actually look like? And, why should we even care? The possibilities here are just huge. Think about robotics. A robot in a factory could sense a worker's frustration and adjust what it's doing. In healthcare, an AI could provide genuinely empathetic mental health support. It could revolutionize education by adapting to a student's feelings, or give us customer service that finally understands when we're actually upset. And let's be really clear about this. The point isn't to create moody robots that are slaves to their own digital emotions. Not at all. The goal is to create machines that can understand our emotions, making our everyday interactions with technology way more natural, more helpful, and, ultimately, a little more human. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. Building a machine that can perfectly understand and mirror our emotions is, without a doubt, a massive challenge. But once we do it, that machine will become a kind of mirror for us. And when we look into that mirror, what new and maybe surprising truths will we learn about the emotional code that's been running us all along?